Hello and welcome to the OriginMD channel. As you well know, there will be no more support for Magic Duels. So, it is time to plan ahead and see what the future holds. I'll be away for most of the August, and that leaves us with about a month of playtime, which is why I've left a poll in the pinned comments below to hear your views on what should be done during this time. Feel free to suggest if the option is not available in the comments. Meanwhile, we have mono blue flyers, similar to the idea Binderato used in the Steam Showdown, but with Amonkhet additions. It's a fast deck with blue flyers. You may want to play creatures with flash on your opponent's end step if you can. If not, you have other cheap flyers, as well as Censor that can mess with your opponent. Vehicles are excellent for getting in for damage and defending. You have bounce and enter the battlefield effects. You can bounce planeswalkers or problematic creatures and save yours with an Essence Flux. You can finish your opponent off with a mass of vehicles and creatures, or you may sacrifice them for the greater good. To create Ormandal. Now, let's discuss each card in more detail. Essence Flux is a very versatile card, and it only costs 1 blue mana. We can have a few uses for it. We can exile our own creature and make it enter the battlefield to save it from some sort of instant or sorcery speed removal. Use our enter the battlefield abilities, for example using it on a Whirler Rogue means you will create 2 more Copter tokens. You can also use it on your opponent's creatures, for example if he has a Mindwreck Demon, which mills its owner when it enters the battlefield. You can use it on him as well, just buffing our spirits at the end of turn and surprising our opponent by using it on a blocker that is going to enter the battlefield untapped and will be able to make a surprise block. Rattlechains is an excellent spirit for only 2 mana. It has flash, which means we can safely play it on our opponent's end step, and also we do have some spirits in our deck, which synergizes quite well, and when it comes into the battlefield, the spirit can gain flash, which means that our opponent's instant or sorcery speed removal spells may also be countered this way. Dimensional Infiltrator is another flash flying creature. Its additional ability doesn't really see that much use, but it can be relevant. We can potentially save it by exiling the top card of our opponent's library, but we do need a colorless mana for this. Skyship Plunderer is just a nice flyer with 2/1. Its counters ability is not that relevant to us, but if we have an Aethersphere Harvester and energy counters, by attacking and dealing damage, we can also multiply them. Smuggler's Copter is a pretty standard card and it also has flying, so I would say it fits the theme of our deck quite nicely. It can also filter through our deck and also nice on the attack, so overall just an excellent include. Compelling Deterrence can bounce a non-land permanent to our opponent's hand or to ours if it's a permanent that we control. Usually we want to use this on some problematic enchantments or perhaps planeswalkers so that they do not pose a threat, but of course if it's something that our opponent is not able to cast out, for example if he's playing a Reanimator deck, this is also something that is quite decent. Censor is a very interesting card. For us this is important so that we do not get blown out during the mid game. It can also counter if our opponent, if he is playing very efficiently on the curve, but of course as the game goes longer and as our opponents get more and more mana, this becomes just a cycling card for 1 blue. Kefnet the Mindful has not been as impactful as I have expected, so you may want to replace him. He can attack and block when you have 7 or more cards. It's also a persistent draw engine, which means you can just draw an additional card for 3 colorless and 1 blue, which is nice, and it can also crew any of the vehicles that we would want, but his impact was not as much as I had expected. Nebelgast Herald is an excellent card. It's a flying spirit with flash, so can be played on the opponent's end step, And most importantly, it is able to tap down creatures the opponent controls, which means and includes even indestructible creatures like an Ulamog. So the value can be quite nice. Furthermore, if we have Rattlechains or another spirit, and we play it out, then we can tap down multiple creatures. So that is a pretty powerful card. Always happy to see this one in our hand. Eldrazi Skyspawner. This is an interesting card. Basically, for 3 mana we get 3 power and 2 toughness, and we can use the colorless Eldrazi sign to ramp ourselves, which can be quite relevant for a turn 4 Skysovereign, and can really mess up our opponent's game plan. And Aethersphere Harvester is a recent addition in Aether Revolt. We get energy counters and some lifelink, which means we get quite a bit of sustain, and also 5 toughness is just quite good for our deck that relies on a lot of low toughness creatures. Curator of Mysteries. This is a card that is on the curve, so for 4 mana we get a 4/4 flyer, and whenever we cycle or discard another card, such as Censor, we will be able to scry 1. We can also cycle it away, but this is probably not the way we want to use him in this deck. Whirler Rogue. Our Artificer doesn't have flying, but the 2 Thopters that he provides are absolutely excellent, and coupled with the ability of tapping down 2 artifacts to make a creature unblockable is also extremely relevant, so it is good on the offense, it is good on the defense. Overall, just a very efficient card. Definitely want to have as many copies as we can in our deck. The Glyph Keeper is a recent addition. It does have Embalm, but usually the opponents don't survive that long. If it's a target or a spell or ability for the first time each turn, then it will get countered, so it does have some additional layers of protection. And even if it does get removed, as long as it's not exile, it can potentially come back. Skysovereign really punishes planeswalkers and small creatures, and usually if we're able to cast it out on curve, it's supposed to be a good game as long as we don't overcommit. This is usually enough to seal the deal. Baral's Expertise is another decent inclusion. For us, since we're playing mono blue, it is important to be able to bounce other artifacts and creatures. And if we draw Baral's Expertise and have some other 4 converted mana cost cards or less, we are also able to cast them out for free. So this can really swing the game in your favor. The Torrential Gearhulk is a card that is perhaps not as good in our deck as it is in other blue decks, but for 6 mana, a 5/6 creature with flash that can also cast out one of our instants can be quite relevant and quite powerful, just as long as we get to that sweet 6 mana spot. As for the mana base, we have 17 islands, 2 Westvale Abbeys, and 4 Skyline Cascades. The Westvale Abbey, of course, can be transformed by sacrificing 5 creatures, paying 5 mana and tapping it into Ormandal. So this can be our alternative win condition if we are stuck on the board. And the 9/7 flying lifelink indestructible with haste, I heard it's quite good. As for the Skyline Cascade, it does come onto the battlefield tapped, and if our opponent has a creature that has already tapped, it will not untap during its controller's next untap step. So that's the deck. Okay, it's our turn. Let's see. We only have 2 mana in our hand, but I still think we can keep this. Let's go ahead and play out an island. Alright. An island for an island. Do we play out the Skyship Plunderer? I don't think he has anything that scary on turn 2 that he can cast, so I'm just going to go for the Plunderer. We do need our 3rd land drop to get all of our creatures. Oath of Nissa. Is this a Super Friends deck? Let's find out. Might be some sort of Simic ramp. We'll see. Okay, we've got 5 cards in our hand. Let's attack with a Plunderer first. And then we have a choice. We can either go for a Herald or for a Skyspawner. I think I do want to play out the Skyspawner, since this way we can ramp ourselves a little bit, even play out the Whirler Rogue by sacrificing the Scion. 3 colors, banned. Okay, and nothing else. Interesting, he didn't cast out Jace that we saw, which means it's probably a good idea to just go ahead and attack first. He has paused the game. It's going to be a Bounding Crazes. Well, I don't mind just manually tapping here, playing out Censor. You have to do this. You have to manually tap the mana if you want to counter with Censor, for this or that reason. Even still, you saw that I made a slight mistake. I tapped down 2 of my lands, which means I won't be able to Censor out whatever is going to come our way now, which is definitely not optimal. Okay, Reflect the Mage, let's see what it's going to be. The Plunder is going to get returned to our hand, which is completely fine. But of course it would have been much more optimal. We can probably just tap down his Reflector Mage to get in for 3. Yeah. This will bring him down to 10. And this puts more pressure. Okay, we now see Jace and we see a Sylvan Advocate, which can become quite scary, but we are at 20 life, which really doesn't feel like there is that much pressure on us currently. We can even do something not completely optimal, like casting out a Whirler Rogue and making the Eldrazi sign unblockable for a grand total of 5 damage. Or we can play out the Skyship Plunderer and we can use the Essence Flux to tap down one of his creatures. Yeah, I think this is probably the better play. Let's go ahead and attack for 4. Play out the Plunderer. Also have an option of going to send the Essence Flux if we sacrifice the Scion. Discards a land. Alright, our opponent didn't seem to draw any answers. He's going to attack. Let's Essence Flux the Spirit, since this way we can tap down the Advocate. Even if it attacks, it doesn't really matter. We are ready to take 6. Keep up the Censor in case our opponent has something. But looks like it doesn't, which means we can just attack with everything we have and win. Alright, this looks decent enough. We have a Copter into Herald and a Whirler Rogue. We are also on the play. So I think I want to start with a Skyline Cascade. Even though he has no creatures, we don't want to be stuck on potentially 2 mana with the 3rd one coming into play tapped. Red and black from our opponent. Alright, we got an untapped land, which is good. This means we can curve out perfectly. Alright, a Copter for a Copter. Okay, 2 can play the game. So we don't have any creatures with haste, but I think it's still worth it to just activate and get in for 3. Now the question is, do we shuffle? And I think at this current stage I would say no. If we don't draw another land which comes into play untapped, I'm quite tempted to go for the Skyline Cascade, even if we can't play the Whirler Rogue. Tap down the creature that is going to crew the Copter. And I do want on turn 5 to go for the Skysovereign, but our opponent does not have any creatures, and we have an untapped land. So, in this case, let's see, he can potentially have a sweeper. So, do we play around it? Okay, so do we want to use the ability or not? We actually... let's go ahead and use it. Get rid of the Cascade here. I'd say let's go for the Skyspawner. Whirler Rogue is going to be our backup plan, since he might have a sweeper and want to be able to populate the board again. Okay, he gets another black, so might be a languish coming up. We will not be overextending and playing out the Whirler Rogue. A Woodland Wanderer. Okay. He is going to activate the Copter. Alright. This is all pretty aggressive. We are going to take the damage. Filters away another Evolving Wilds. Okay, we got ourselves a World Rogue. So his Woodland Wanderer does have Trample. And now we have a choice. We can either overextend and go for it like that. Since our Eldrazi sign is not going to do anything anyway, we can just hit for 5. Yeah. I think I just want to attack for 5 first. He might have some other creatures, so I want the Skysovereign to be present. And for him to go for defensive play rather than offensive play. Of course, he might have some removal for the Skysovereign. So let's see. Okay, a Winding Constrictor. So this is a Juned Constrictor deck. Interesting. Alright, he is going to attack for 8. Shuffles through the deck as well. And plays out a Sylvan Advocate. Okay. Censor is not going to be of that much help to us. So, what do we get rid of? Do we get rid of the Constrictor or do we get rid of the Sylvan Advocate? That is the question. We can hit for potentially 10 this turn, if we would wish to do so. Still an advocate or the Constrictor. I think I want to get rid of the Constrictor. Now let's say go. If we survive this turn, it's going to be very difficult for our opponent. Alright, has Kalitas. This is fine as well. We just have to jump block a little. Okay, one token. One token here. And I think I'm not going to block. Alright, so what we can do is we can simply make our Skysovereign unblockable. We still have a Censor up just in case, but of course a Feral push would be the end of it. But if we're going to attack with all the flyers that we have, I think this attack is going to be enough. Who we deal damage to doesn't really matter. We're going to make our Skysovereign unblockable. And if it doesn't have an answer, this is going to be game. Let's see. Well, we cannot do anything about the Feral push, we can just cycle it away, since he still has one more mana available. And that's the end of it. Okay, it's our turn. We do need creatures. This looks slightly more promising. But we do need more mana to make it work. Let's keep this hand and see if we'll be able to do so. Okay, we did draw another land, which is quite good, and we also get to keep the Censor up. Okay, nothing else. Alright. I think we still want to play out the Eldrazi Skyspawner, since this way we ramp ourselves up a bit, and we can apply some pressure on our opponent. Let's see if he has anything serious on turn 3. He does have Bound Collars. Okay. We didn't draw another land drop. We can commit, since those colors don't really have any removals. Of course, he might have a mountain there. We might want to commit to a Whirler Rogue play. Let's go ahead and attack for 2. Blast Alliance. Okay. Censor wouldn't have helped since he has one more. So let's go for the Whirler Rogue. Then say go. Explosive Vegetation, so this is going to be some sort of ramp plan as well. He does have, it looks like swamps as well, so that means he has all the colors. Very interesting. Let's go ahead and attack with everything. And I think with this kind of mana, our Censor is not going to be of that much help. So a Harvester is in place. Let's see if he has a mass removal. Gleam of Genius first. Can still cast out Radiant Flames if he finds it. Doesn't look that way. Alright, we've got Southern Island. Let's go ahead and crew. Then we can attack. Let's see if he has any removal spells. At least not for now, so let's go ahead and use the energy. Which means we'll be able to comfortably get in for 6 and then keep up at Censor as well as an Essence Flux. Alright, has Nahiri. Probably going to remove the Harvester. And has Tamio. Alright, so this is pretty good since he is completely tapped out of mana. And I don't want to Compelling Deterrence Nahiri for sure. Alright, we've got 3 Essence Fluxes. This is suboptimal. Let's get rid of Nahiri. Get in for 2 more. We could return the Whirler Rogue to our hand defensively if he has a sweeper. Alright, Super Friends all the way. Gets to scry and damage us for 1. And nothing else. I'm not even going to do anything to Saheeli. Just going to go ahead and attack for 4. And we do have commit, which means that if something really scary is going to be cast out by our opponent, we can just put it somewhere in his deck. And he does need something special to survive out of this. It's going to be Sorin. Alright, Sorin seems like a decent enough target. Let's use commit. And say goodbye to Sorin for now. And it looks like the last card in his hand is not going to be a mass removal spell. Which means we'll be able to comfortably attack for 4. And close out the game. Okay, I don't really like this hand. We only have expensive spells. A Skyship Spawner times 3. Let's try again. Alright, this seems just a bit better. Let's start off with the Skyline Cascade because I do want to be able to cast out the Copter on turn 2. And hopefully we'll get 1 more mana by that time so that we can crew it. Okay. Don't think our opponent can really have something for 2 mana that is going to threaten us too much. So I'm not going to keep up the Censor. Double black. Okay. Now, we are not going to get the mana, but we do have Rattlechains. So he has double black. Do we risk getting our Smuggler Copter sniped? I think not. I think we wait for our opponent's turn, and then we can either Censor something or cast out Rattlechains end of turn. Well, he's tapped out of mana. Black and white doesn't do anything else. Okay, I'd say let's go for the Rattlechains. Will we get a land drop? Yes, we will. So, Herald? Or do we go for an Essence Flux defensively? I'd say let's try it. Let's crew the Copter. Interesting, it's not getting removed at least for now. Do we use the Smuggler's Copter ability? I'd say yes, since it hasn't been removed yet. We can just get rid of the Essence Flux here. and keep up the Skyline Cascade, since we need to get to the stage where we can cast out the Skysovereign. We've also got the Herald that we can play out on our opponent's turn. Alright, a Reclamation Sage is not something that we can get rid of with Censor, since he still has one more mana. And this is interesting. Does he have anything else? No. Okay, let's cast out the Herald. Tap down the Sage. Alright, we got ourselves a Dimensional Infiltrator. Not too bad. Let's make the Sage unable to untap. Attack for 4. And wait for our opponent's turn. Has 5 mana available. So what is it going to be? Okay. Never on the Rattlechains. Not something that we can stop. Anything else? No. In this case, let's go for the Dimensional Infiltrator. And I think I want to cycle away the Censor, since we are already in a situation when he has access to so much mana. And we need one more land to cast out the Skysovereign. So I'd say let's go ahead and attack first. See if he will use some sort of removal. This won't be the case. Okay. Even if he wipes the board, we have the Whirler Rogue that can crew. And if he takes out the Skysovereign, then we still have our threats on the ground. So I'd say we're in a decent spot. Okay, has a Woodland Bellower, so he can pull another Reclamation Sage. Not something you see often, and that's why I cycled away Censor. Nevertheless, we can put quite a lot of pressure on our opponent still. Since we are at 20 life, getting hit for 8 is not going to be that bad for us. We can play out the Curator here in case he was going to board wipe completely. And this is enough pressure for our opponent, since all of them are flyers, to try and do something drastic to save the situation here. So let's see if we will see if he has some sort of board wipe like Languish or Planar Outburst. You really, really rarely see a Woodland Bellower being played nowadays for 6 mana. Alright, plays Never. This is still fine. Attacks for 8. And can still have quite a few tricks up his sleeve. Has a Westvale Abbey, interesting. Plays out the return, so creates a zombie. He is going to be tapped out though. Okay, has a potential to deal 10 damage to us. So, let's go ahead and attack. Then we can cast out the Whirler Rogue. Then say go. He must have a heavy creature-based deck, which is interesting. Okay, our opponent has left the game, which means he didn't draw any answers. Let's see if the AI is going to attack at all. No, it's not. We can play out an island and attack with all the flyers we have. Our opponent might have a Blessed Alliance. Okay, let's see. We do have a Copter. So let's try and keep this hand. Our opponent pulls a Wastes. Alright, this might be an Eldrazi ramp. Seems like a likely scenario. He might want to play out Ruin in the Wake next turn so that he can ramp out straight away. Wastes and a black source of mana. Might be a black colorless control. Let's see. We do have quite a few options here. He might have a Fatal Push or a Special Contortion. So the question is, what do we do? And I'd say let's go for a Skyspawner, but not use it to crew the Copter this turn. Just say go. I want to see him spend his mana on something. Alright. Red as well, Matter Reshaper. Well, since he has spent his mana, this means that we'll be able to attack for 5 this turn. At the very least, we do have potentially 4 mana available. So we can cast out the Plunderer and another Smuggler's Copter. And I think I do want to go for this play to try and apply as much pressure as possible. I think I do want to use the Smuggler's Copter ability. Let's see, I think we won't have enough mana to cast out the Gearhulk. We will play out the Copter. And we can play out the Plunderer. We do have 3 mana that we can use to cast out our creatures. Even if he has a board wipe right now, which he doesn't, we could still go for Kefnet to crew. Let's see, 6 damage. Well, we'll be able to deal at least as much. So I think I'm not going to do anything here. This takes us down to 14. We do have some more mana and we can play out the Herald next turn. So I think we want to crew. Attack for 6. No, I don't think we need to use the Copter's abilities. He's down to 9. Now we can use either the Herald or the Compelling Deterrence. Okay, Reality Smasher. Reality Smasher, we would have to discard something to affect it. So going for a Herald into discarding Kefnet. Alright, let's tap it down. Yeah, I'd say let's tap it down. Interesting. So 6. If we will be at 8 then, but we still have the Compelling Deterrence. So I'd say yeah. Let's keep the block. Actually, since he's completely tapped out of everything, we can just play out Kefnet. We can crew the Copter, which is going to be enough to close out the game. Alright. And that's a victory for us. Alright, our opponent is going to play first. I think this hand is decent enough. Let's keep this. We've got the Infiltrator, Plunderer as cheap options, Skyspawner, and 100% surefire way to cast it. Somewhere along the line we can also play out the Whirler Rogue. So I'd say let's go. Our Infiltrator can also come into play on our opponent's end step. He starts off with a thick inventory, so this might be an Is It Burn, Mill deck, or something different. I do want to keep those Censors up, just in case our opponent is mana efficient. Let's see, another thick inventory. This is fine. Does he do anything else? No, he doesn't. Okay. Here comes our Dimensional Infiltrator. Let's see if he has any way of dealing with it, and it seems at least not at this stage. So, next turn he's going to have 4 mana. And if he has Mill, I won't be able to counter it with Censor. So I think I want to develop the board a bit more. Let's see if he has any mass removal spells. Something like Radiant Flames. Alright, plays out white mana source. And he has a Reflector Mage. Let's see which creature he is going to return. And it looks like Censor is not that good, since we have already passed the mark where it would have been excellent. Attack for 2, and now the question is, how do we do it? We are not able to play it this turn, but I think I want to play out the Plunderer, and if I understand the Dimensional Infiltrator correctly, we can play it on our opponent's turn. Okay. Has a Docent of Perfection. Now that is something you don't see often. Unfortunately for our opponent, we are going to Censor it. And I'm going to bring up this card right here. Wherever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token. When you control 3 or more, it transforms into 6/5 flying. An interesting card. You don't see those often. We are of course just going to let 2 damage through. Since we have 18 life, we are totally fine with this. Now, we can play out the Dimensional Infiltrator and have an Essence Flux up as well. As well as a potential Censor number 2. Our opponent is down to 11, so I'm not really tempted to go for the Whirler Rogue here. Okay. A Reflector Mage on the Plunderer, this is fine. Just going to attack. That's also fine. Could have probably gone for the Essence Flux on the Skyship Plunderer. Then I would have been able to finish everything much faster. Let's see, telling time. Do we stop it? Let's say yeah. Let's go ahead and stop it. I doubt I'm going to get much use out of Censors when he already has so much mana. And he might think we have one more. Okay, we've got another Dimensional Infiltrator. And we can also cast the Skysovereign. So Why not? Let's go ahead and attack for 4. This is going to leave our opponent at 7, and even if he does have some sort of sweeper effect that will take out the creatures, we will still be able to populate the board quite quickly. We did not draw any more mana than 4, but still this was enough. And I really doubt our opponent is going to be able to get out of this. Okay, he has got another Docent of Perfection, and he probably should have played out this land before. Well, who knows if he would have been that careful. He is definitely going to block the Skysovereign. We do have an option of going for an Essence Flux or just going for a Whirler Rogue and just making it unblockable. So I think we can just close out the game this turn. Let's see. We do have to tap the artifact though, so what we can do is we are going to crew first, of course. We could attack and just go for an Essence Flux. Since we don't have a spirit that is going to tap, we can just get in for 4 this turn. And since we get the enter the battlefield ability, we are just, yeah, let's wait for him to block. He has to block first. Then we're going to Essence Flux the Skysovereign. Get rid of the Docent of Perfection. That leaves our opponent at 3. And this is a more cute play than just making our Skysovereign unblockable. So I expect a good game quite soon. Okay, here it comes. The AI is going to attack for 2. We're just going to take the damage. Okay, so let's play out the Plunderer. Crew the Skysovereign. And just attack with everything we have. I'd like to thank you for watching and see you in the next video.